Hello and welcome once again to episode 121 of Code Completion. We're a group of iOS developers and educators hoping to share what we love most about development, Apple technology, and completing your code. My name is Dimitri and I'll be your host once again for this episode, and I'm joined today by my fellow completionist, Spencer.
Hey there.
So let's start off with a little bit of story time. So I would say like last week, my cats have vanquished yet another one of the expensive cables. This time, this nearly untouched MagSafe 3 cable has, if you scrutinize it enough, bite marks on it, and those bite marks are enough to give it the yellow flashes of I'm dead, and this cable can start fires, so it's not going to actually charge lights, which is good. The less good part about that is they are like not readily available anywhere, so it's like you gotta go to the Apple Store to order more. So long story short, I went to the Apple Store and I bought like 4 of them because at this point I don't know how. This is not the first one. I'll leave it at that. Many have been bitten through, and I'm like down in my reserves, so this is me restocking. And it's not because I'm like leaving them out. Like I am extra careful now with any cable that I care about, including said headphone cables. This is also one of my last ones. I think I have like one more spare after this, but if we suddenly start missing episodes, it's because something happened. But yeah, like I am like sure to tuck these away, but every now and then they find a way. They like get curious and they're like, oh, what happens if I just pull up these couch cushions? And then there I discover cables no longer working.
Right.
So yeah, long story short, went to the Apple Store and I got a chance to check out the new HomePods. And I immediately noticed a difference, and that is the new HomePods have a little lip at the top. So that like mesh fabric will kind of go over the screen and under, and there's like a 2mm-ish gap between the screen and the new top of the HomePod. So I don't know, anyone who was curious about the new HomePods but did not get one, that is a fact that I can share with you now, having seen them in person. That was like the immediate thing that popped out at me. I've read that people have done like sound tests, and although they sound different, there's no like this one sounds better or this one sounds louder than the other one. Mm-hmm. So it seems like they, for all intents and purposes, they are not inferior in any way. Except in this one way, and that is because those specific mounts that like anchor the bottom and the top of the HomePod's extrusions will no longer work. We're gonna need a different mount that kind of like holds in, I guess, a little bit. And that would be the new like wall mount for HomePods. I don't know if you have any wall mounted. We have one in our kitchen, but yeah.
That's interesting. I did. So also. I can't remember if you said this last time we talked about this. Are they like fatter or like dimensionally? Are they a little bit different, or are they pretty much the same? Otherwise,
they're a little bit different. I think they're like shorter and fatter, or taller and skinnier. One of those two things. And apparently, according to iFixit, there's like no glue to take them apart anymore, so it's like really easy to actually take them apart.
Nice.
I did not actually watch the thing. I really should. But. Yeah, apparently it's easier to take apart. That's the gist that I got out of reading headlines this morning.
Yeah, it's always fun to see like the repairability score on like Apple devices from iFixit. It's like a 2 out of 10 at most for some things. Like
we invented a new lower 1 than 1 because this was a new record for them.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of cool. Like I remember watching the first one. I think they had to like cut away all of the mesh and everything to get inside of it, and you know, so that's cool. I don't know what, I guess if one of the speakers goes out, you might be able to replace it. I don't know. That's cool though.
Yeah, or one of the components burns out, like what was happening with the first gen. Mine all still work. And second story of the night. So weeks ago, my stereo pair that I used for our TV setup, which was working perfectly fine, all of a sudden it still kind of worked, but not perfectly fine. The asterisk there comes from the fact that when you change volume, only the left one would change. The right one would stay at whatever volume it was set to. It would still get audio like flawlessly, no latency or any of that. So it was just the volume just did not want to connect. You could go up to the top of the HomePod and press the plus and minus, and that worked. So we kind of defaulted to just putting it at 0 because if Lynn wanted to do like Apple Fitness in the morning and I was on a meeting, she couldn't turn down the volume via the remote. So that was super impractical. After throwing my head at a wall for what felt like a few weeks, I finally just said, okay, I'm resetting everything. And guess what? I fixed the right HomePod. Only for the left HomePod to no longer change volume.
No.
So, that was really tearing my hair out situation. But I did end up solving it, and I ended up solving it for a completely different reason. A bunch of my other HomeKit stuff was just like not working anymore either. So I'm like, okay, I think I'm just going to restart all the Unify access points. And lo and behold, that not only fixed the HomeKit stuff, it also fixed the HomePod stuff. So weird. Everything just started working from that point forward. A little bit of disappointment for Unify stuff. That's supposed to be like the rock solid that you never have to like turn off or power cycle every now and then. And that needed the most power cycling that I have seen. So, it lasted, I guess, more than my Mac did because I need to restart that one semi-often. Otherwise, new Safari windows just render black just because that's the cool thing to do. And the best part is the way to get them back is you find some other Safari windows, you close those, and then you get back to this one, you Command A to select all, and that redraws. But just the text parts, so you still have some black. It's like, I don't know. I am like ready to go retire as a farmer and an isekai or something. I'm ready to be Trekund out of here because nothing is really working for me technology wise, and I don't know.
That's interesting. Yeah, I agree that like the whole Unify stuff should definitely just like work, and that's kind of the whole point.
It works now, and I restarted
it. I know, but like the question is, how long is that going to last, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, now I know I just have to restart everything, and you have to be smart about restarting everything because to restart everything, you need to be on the last access point that like still has access to restart the other ones. Because you can't just say like restart all. You need to go to each one and say like restart, go to the next one, restart. So I have to like plan it and figure out which access point I'm on, and then restart all the other ones first, and then do that one last. Otherwise, once I restart that one, then I don't have access anymore because I'm like wireless, of course. So, I guess maybe I'll do that wired next time. But alas.
Huh. Interesting.
Doesn't fill me with confidence.
For me, my Unify stuff has been great, and I have 3 access points right now, including like the router itself. And it's been fine. Like I haven't had, as far as I can tell, any like HomeKit specific things. I don't know. I don't know what to say. And you have like the Super Baller Network TM. I don't know.
It's baller that you have to restart it every few days along with everything else.
Yeah, true.
So I don't know. In better news, it turns out you can make stereo pairs with mismatched HomePods. You just need a Mac, and I think like airfoil or something. And you just manually make an aggregate device that you can AirPlay to. That's a solution. I don't know if it'll work for like the Apple TV, home theater kind of setup, but it should definitely work for like the music setup.
Yeah, that was my question as well. Like, are you able to somehow save that as like its own AirPlay device over the network or in iCloud, or I don't know how that would work, but that would be my use case, right? Is getting a second one for my Apple TV. So if it doesn't do that, then that's kind of a bummer, and I'm not sure I would actually use it. So perhaps people will test it with an Apple TV. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at this point you can probably find the OG ones for really cheap, since people are going to be like, I don't want this OG one, I want the newer one, because the original ones are slow. And use the slow ones for your TV, and just disable Hey Siri. Like at that point, they're just nice speakers that are wirelessly connected, and you don't have to deal with the slowness of Hey Siri. So yeah, I would suggest doing that. If
Yeah.
she agrees. But yeah, I would go ahead and say, like, if you are planning on getting newer HomePods and you still have the older ones, use the older ones as like your TV setup speakers if you have TVs lying around, rather than the ones that you actually will like poke around with and reach with your like phone.
Right.
Because like, yeah, they don't need to be fast for that. They work perfectly fine despite how slow they are, and there's like zero latency even when playing games. I'm sure someone will notice, but it's been really great for me.
Nice. Yeah, kind of a real-time follow-up. I'm like looking on eBay and like local classifieds, and they're still going for like 230, 250. So, I mean, maybe I'll try to be on the lookout to find like, someone with like just a good deal, but kind of seem like they're holding their value, which I am a little surprised about. Now that the new ones are out, but maybe it'll just take time for people to get the new ones and then try to offload their old ones. And that's a good idea. Maybe I'll do that, and just that will be my way of getting my pair without spending $600. So good thinking.
It's hard at work.
Yeah.
So that leads us into our next topic, and that is that our good friend Clascal is back in the news. It's back in the news because the source code has been released along with the Lisa source code, which I think we talked about, that was like just recently open sourced and donated to the Computer History Museum. And you might remember Clascal from Code Completion Episode 3, where we had it as a part of our little trivia thing. So yeah, Clascal source code, if you want to learn about a object-oriented version of Pascal, that is now available for poking at. Yeah, I would not recommend writing your next app in this, but from an educational point of view, it should be way easier to learn how that works rather than learn how like Swift works under the hood. Way less complexity. So yeah, glad to see it.
Nice. Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, not sure I would ever use it, but it's fun to see like that whole thing that, was closed source just be open for people to explore. And I don't know what you can particularly get out of it, but perhaps it's just, I don't know. It's cool that it's out in the open, I guess, is my biggest thing.
Definitely. Something else that's out in the open is Apple's report card. So this is a thing that Steven Snell does from Six Colors, I think. And he basically goes and asks...
Sorry, Jason Snell.
Yes, Jason Snell. Oh my goodness. So yes, Jason Snell of Six Colors goes and asks a bunch of other people in the Apple blogosphere, if you will. Are blogs still things? I don't know. But he goes and asks them to rate a whole bunch of different aspects of Apple. So in particular, the Mac, the iPhone, the iPad, the watch, the Apple TV services, HomeKit, hardware reliability, software quality, dev relations, environment, social impact, and wearables, like AirPods and watch kind of thing. And yeah, he will go ahead and collect all this and then collect people's thoughts. And it is overall a good kind of snapshot because not only did he do this year, he's been doing it for the past several years, ever since 2015. So you get a good kind of idea of how Apple's quality bar is changing over time, and I think that's relatively cool to see.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like the first graph that he has is like average scores for how Apple did from like 1 or 0 or 1 to 5. Pretty like I read this and taken on its own, I was like, yeah, I kind of agree with that. And then it's fun to see the changes since last year. Like one of the highest ones is the Mac at like a 4.2. I was like, yeah, that checks out. But then if you go for the change since last year, it's gone down 0.4. So it was at 4.6, and just kind of fun to see these trends, and it's got graphs for each of these things. And At the highest, it was at 4.7 the year before, and that coincides basically with the M1. So kind of fun. I mean, if all other things equal, just people's way of ranking these things is fun to see. Like the iPad, for example, has gone down 0.7. And I mean, when I read that, I was like, yeah, that checks out. There isn't really anything new since last year. There's the M2 iPad Pro, and that's probably the most exciting thing. But we already had the M1 iPad Pro and the M1 iPad Air before that. So I guess it's fun to see like how things are to other people externally, either improving or degrading with Apple, like hardware reliability and let's see, HomeKit, software quality, dev relations have all not changed since last year. But it's fun to see like hardware reliability is at a 4.5, but then you go to dev relations, it's at like a 2.8. So like the sentiment has stayed the same, and that sort of checks out, at least with what's been going on with the developer relations stuff with Apple, with still taking 30% and not everything. So it's cool to see, like you said, these trends and these changes over a period of many years to see I guess the overall trend for a long time. So
yeah,
cool
like,
idea for sure.
Is it getting better? Is it getting worse? Like definitely for the Mac, you can see it got a lot better over the past few years. So even though it's dropping because 2022 was a lackluster year for Apple, from a like biggest bang for the news article kind of thing. That might be true, but they're doing great otherwise. Yeah. Whereas like developer relations, they haven't really improved at all over the past several years. And then the iPad, it's had like a great promise in terms of like, oh, the hardware is amazing, but then you just need the software to catch up. And then 2022 is going to be the year of the iPad software. We're going to get that new thing that lets you like multitask on the iPad like never before, and it turns out to be something that just does not really work for a lot of people. And I have yet to discover on my own, like Apple doesn't even want to put this feature front and forward. This is the 1 year I did not go through every new setting because I redid the whole settings app, and I don't have time for that anymore. But yeah, I don't know how to do the new, I don't even remember what's called, theme manager or something.
Stage manager.
I have yet to naturally land on it, and Apple has yet to force it upon me. So even they must not feel so great about it. So maybe it's more of a 2023 thing. It sucks that this has to be yearly and they can't just keep iterating on this throughout the year. But this is what it is.
Yeah. The article's super long, but it's because it has like all of these different categories and people's thoughts on them. It's fun to go read about like other people's thoughts. Like I think the big one for me was like HomeKit, because like nothing's really changed about HomeKit in a long time. And I think we're all like, this has been my sentiment, but it also is sort of, I guess, followed up or also stated by a lot of these people about like Matter being sort of on the precipice here. And I think we're all just sort of waiting for that, like better reliability, just more compatibility, and an overall better home experience, because right now it's like not awesome. Like one of the people wrote like it's hard to debug any problem that you have with HomeKit. Like, Dimitri would just like reset the Unify stuff. I guess that might work, maybe. And if that didn't work, you probably wouldn't have had like any other recourse if it didn't work. So it's fun to see the trend. Like it's not just me that's having problems with HomeKit or whatever, or it's not just me that thinks that like the Mac is doing pretty dang well or whatever. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, the HomeKit stuff is harsh though, especially because like I really want it to work. And that's the thing that's keeping me using it. Otherwise, and the fact that I was smart and got switches that are like, they still look like regular switches. So you can always rely on that. Like imagine if there were no switches on the wall. This is like an Apple home. That would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
But because there are still switches, I can still get out of bed to turn off the lights.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. But like that is something it can do, and it really sucks when you get used to being able to tell the lady to dim the lights and to go to bed. Like we have it set for dim. We'll go ahead and dim the lights to like 2% or something, like barely on, just so that way you can still see, but it's not like annoying other people. And then night we'll go ahead and actually turn them all off. So we have that all, like, it's ingrained in our behavioral patterns at this point. But then it's like, dim, and then it's not dimming, it's still like blaring at 50%. You're like, I have to now crawl out of bed, out of my sleepy state, to go turn off the lights. So it's not the future that I wanted. But it's the future that we live in, because this is not rock solid yet. And who knows, like, which part of it is at fault, right? Half the times it might be the switches where I notice, hey, they just don't want to connect, and you have to like restart them, which is the stupidest thing, to need to restart your wall switch. But that's just something you need to do. And other times it's the Unify, apparently. So I don't really know anymore what my thought were. Like, I would still set it up again, because like when it works, it's super convenient. But yeah, don't ever install this without a plan B in mind, because that can definitely become a nightmare. Yeah,
I can't imagine, like, I don't know, a future where your your house door lock or something is like only able to be opened by HomeKit or something. Like, still probably need keys or something. So
I have not used my house keys in like years
really?
At this point. Yeah.
Actually, I don't either, because I go through my garage, but I really only lock them if I know I'm going to be gone for a while. But if I like go grocery shopping, I'm like, whatever.
No, so we have one of those Yale Smart Living. It always says that every time you change the batteries. So that's something I remember. But it has one of those little keypads on the outside. Yeah. I just use nice. The keypad all the time. Yeah, that's nice. I wish like HomeKit could be smart enough of like, when my car comes back home and CarPlay, like, offer me unlock the door, please. Cool. But no, it offers on the phone, and then you have to like press and hold and then wait for that to pop up and like open the home app. It's like needlessly frictiony when CarPlay could have done it. So Apple, if you're listening, please fix macOS 10. Then after you've done that, go ahead and add a button to CarPlay to unlock the front doors. That would be very much appreciated, because you know where I live. Please be useful, rather than just knowing where I live, because that's kind of useless. But yeah,
we're not on macOS 10 anymore. But yes.
Oh, we're not on macOS 10 anymore.
No.
Please update macOS 10. Let's go back. That was better.
Yes.
I feel like that was a lot more stable. It wasn't available for Apple Silicon, but like, you could make it work. I believe in you. Something that Apple is making work is actually Swift Evolution, because we have yet another proposal that's come in, and that is for static big int, for when you need big numbers.
Yeah, this is interesting, and I don't know if I completely understand it, so I'll kind of run through with what I understood. It talked about like needing to represent like insanely large numbers, something that like an int 64 couldn't hold. So they gave an example of like int 256, which as far as I know doesn't exist yet, right? Or does
yeah, I think the Swift numerics library has support for them. If you really need to do like big number calculations, which is mostly just used for like cryptography and stuff. Sure. And yeah, sometimes you just need to add two big numbers together. It's like not far-fetching. It's a pain to need to do that manually, because you need to carry the one onto a different set of buffers, and that's complicated.
Right.
Anyways,
so this was like being able to, I think, like know what the size of the number was or something like that without, or like know if it's positive or negative, and know the size of the int without actually like needing the value or something. I don't know. I kind of ran through it quickly. So Sorry, I kind of butchered that.
No, so it's mostly for being able to type in a large number in code. Otherwise, you would be limited to
Oh.
N64.
Oh.
And if you want to type a bigger number than N64, which is pretty large, then
Yeah.
you'd be able to do that because it would represent that number as a series of bytes rather than just giving you like
Okay.
this won't compile because it's too big of a thing.
It's the hard limit.
Yeah. And it does that by giving the code a way to check dynamically, like how large is this buffer before I try to consume it. And if
Okay.
it's too large, then the code can go ahead and throw. But if it's within the realm that it can understand, then you can go ahead and do something with it. So it's yet another example of Swift evolution, like being very open to supporting more and more non-trivial things that will come up as you're writing new libraries. So if you are also writing a library and you need some Swift to be able to do something, like definitely go for it. Write a proposal for it, and get it in the language, because chances are, as long as you have a valid use case that can be used for other things, or you are working on a public library that can be used by others and it needs this functionality to kind of be possible, then the community will likely like be open to hearing your case. And it's quite cool to be able to get something like that into the language itself that everyone else can use. So, yeah.
Yeah.
On the topic of things that other people can use, we have an unfortunate delay in the not yet released mini LED 27-inch external displays that we have yet to see. So it seems like we're not going to see them for quite a while more. That's the news.
Bummer. Yep. It said it was targeting or the rumor was that Apple was targeting a Q1 2023 release. So they're not going to hit that, which is a bummer. So I don't think you were really wanting one where you were, I mean, you wouldn't probably go down from 32 to 27 inches for like a main display, would you?
Yeah, I wouldn't go for it particularly. But if I were going to go for an external display at this point, I would definitely want it to be HDR capable. It is quite striking being used to an HDR display and then going back to a non-HDR display. So yeah, that would be the only thing that I would say is a deal killer for the current Apple Studio displays. Like, I don't even care about the camera, to be honest.
Yeah.
I have more than enough unused cameras on my desk that I can make use of. But yeah, the HDR-ness, that would be a deal killer. So yeah, looking forward to them one day existing, but more looking forward to the hypothetical 7K, because 6K is no longer Gucci enough. So looking forward to that 7K coming out one day. And yeah.
You're insatiable with your hunt for pixels. Another thing that is kind of rumored, which is like a blast from the past almost, because this was like a rumor years ago, was they're working on they are working on reverse wireless charging for the iPhone, which it kind of already has, the article mentions, which I had completely forgot about. But there's that MagSafe battery pack that's like first party that if it's just sticking to the back of your phone and you plug your phone in with a lightning cable, it will actually charge the battery pack. But that's like the extent of the reverse wireless charging. But this whole feature is super cool because you could like have your AirPods, you could just be walking around with your phone and your AirPods. If your AirPods die completely, including the case, you could, or I guess not even really die completely, you just want to top it up, put it on the back of your phone on the coil where you would normally charge your phone, and it can do it the other way. And so it seems like, I think if I remember, I don't have the article up, but I think it's since like the iPhone 12 or 13 that the hardware has been there. It's just there's no, I guess, firmware and or software support to enable that, aside from, again, that one use case of the battery pack. So seems like they couldn't get it working because of like thermal issues. I think for the most part, but I could be wrong. So be really nice. I think it's a fairly niche use case, but like on the chance that you're in a place where you only have your phone and you need to charge your AirPods, or the whole thing is it could be any Qi wireless device. You need to charge your friend's phone or something. You could in theory do it. So it'd be really cool. It seemed, I think the article mentioned they were trying to actually release this with the iPhone 14 series, but it didn't happen. So maybe they're looking to do that as like a big feature for, I don't know if it would be the iPhone 15 or if it's just like iOS 17 supports that or something, because in theory you could sort of backport that over to the iPhone 12 or 13 series forward. So
And the part that I was thinking about most with all this was the fact that the newest version of Qi charging, which is basically the MagSafe kind of connection where you have the magnets and all that, I think that could probably be where this comes to play, because with all the magnets, like your AirPods can just kind of like click into place behind your phone to kind of charge from there. And that could be the way that this could work once it ultimately does get released. I don't think it's going to be a software thing. It's probably going to be a hardware thing. But yeah, I'd say because it works so well with the MagSafe battery pack, and that it charges it where you're just like plugging into the phone, it's a really magical kind of feature in that regard. So it would be really cool for Apple to make this work for more things, especially as phones are getting more and more surplus battery for those of us that I guess don't use them to their fullest. Then it becomes a little portable battery pack in that case. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that one day being a thing, especially as phones get longer and longer battery lives. I'd say this could be like more useful on a laptop. Like, hey, the little palm rests on the two sides. Like, let me charge my phone there, please. That would be great during iOS development. Though I guess it's always plugged in anyways. Yeah, I'd say on the go that could be like more practical than the alternative. Or maybe get some Qi charging on the iPad. That would be pretty neat. Especially if you can have the puck just like glue itself to the back of the iPad, then that would be like perfect, honestly. But maybe it can't deliver enough power fast enough. I don't know. I've seen iPads like not charge a lot. On like suboptimal chargers. They're just like, yeah, we're not charging. We're draining more than anything here. Then again, I've also plugged in my Nintendo Switch to my laptop, and it's like, yeah, I'm charging, and it's really not charging either. So, yeah, all sorts of fun scenarios, I guess.
Yeah. On the topic of like having it in the palm rests, I think that's a cool idea. And when I go to my job's office, I have it on one of those like I have my laptop on one of those stands, and I actually use the laptop's display unlike at home. But you can throw the AirPods case on like one of the corners, and because of the laptop's
magnetic
like, magnets, it just sticks there, and like that's where I put them. So I mean, it'd be really cool to just have it like basically like a Qi 2 or MagSafe thing for the AirPods. So that'd be a fun idea.
And then the reverse can happen, right? You can charge your palm rest. And just put the MagSafe puck on your palm rest, and that would charge your laptop.
There you go.
It's a true wireless charging. I don't know why we call this wireless charging, because there's always a wire involved.
There's a wire
in all of this. It's not like it's not wireless. It's maybe contactless,
tethered,
but yeah, it certainly ain't wireless. So, whatever happened to? Do you remember that P-cell technology? Bertrand, who used to work on Mac OS X at Apple, he left Apple to work on that, and it was basically like, we can get very fast connections by using these multiple cells, and they would like focus their beams directly on your device as it moves, and we can even charge with that technology. Like, I think that would be really cool to have in the near future, like true wireless charging, where you just like install something in the middle of the room and it will just kind of trickle power slowly towards everything. Especially as we kind of get towards a true renewable like energy future, for those that have like solar and you actually have extra electricity to go through, then yeah, why not use it for that? But otherwise, yeah, it's kind of wasteful, I guess. I answered my own question. It's still a waste.
Yeah.
Unless it's not.
I don't know. I don't remember that, but I remember there was like a Linus Tech Tips video years ago that it was like, I think they called it Li-Fi. I could be wrong, but it was basically like, a light that you just put in the center of the room, and they powered like a model train that was just going in circles, but there were no wires to it. There was no battery. It was just powered by whatever that actual sort of wireless power was. So it's like it exists as a technology. I don't think it went anywhere. I think it was more of like a tech demo than anything. So I don't know. It'd be really cool though. I mean, you just have your stuff. I mean, it's almost like the it makes me think of the little, I guess it was like a solar cell on like a calculator, right? You put your finger over it and it doesn't work, but as soon as that receives the light, then it works. So
you're aging yourself, Spencer. You're aging yourself.
I am very, yeah, that's true.
You see the LCD slowly dim, and then you remove your finger and it's back.
You're like, okay, I'm good. That would be awesome. Just monochrome display everything.
My friend was asking me recently. He went back to school after several years, and he was interested. He needed a graphing calculator for like exams and stuff. I'm like, are they still a thing? Because we kind of have supercomputers in our pockets. Like, what's the point of a graphing calculator anymore? I could not comprehend it. And I guess like, it's a limited cell phone for the use case of like class, and it doesn't have Wi-Fi. But modern graphing calculators are probably just Android with Wi-Fi and everything, right? Like, it would be cheaper to do that than to build an ancient kind of graphing calculator.
I'll bet you that people are still like, I don't know. Like, I remember having to get like a TI-84, and it was like way expensive, dude. It was, I don't know.
Oh, I broke the mold and looked up the coolest calculator that I can get from the list of available ones. So I got some baller Casio thing that can do like 3D graphs, and you can like program it. It was way better than the
Doom
on
TI.
It. Yeah, I don't think I put Doom on it. I definitely put Tetris on it.
Awesome.
And Game Boy games.
I was gonna say, people like make Game Boy emulators and stuff for their calculators. It's so cool.
Which you don't need to do anymore because you can get them on your Switch now. Anyways,
yes,
I'm kind of excited by Game Boy games on the Switch.
Yeah, it's good.
That's neither here nor there. What is here is antitrust stuff is back in the news. Apparently everyone wants Apple to relinquish control of the App Store, both in Congress and in Japan. And there's like hints that Safari needs to improve if it's going to stay competitive. And it's kind of been improving from like a publicity point of view. Like they have been really going for like better specification coverage all around. So yeah, I don't know what to make of this most recent set of complaints. But it's gonna happen, I guess.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's interesting to see. I mean, the EU was kind of first, right? Especially with like all the antitrust stuff. Now it's I don't know how much it's actually gaining steam here in the US, but like in Japan, I don't also know sort of culturally if they're particularly litigious over big companies or anything, if they're really gonna follow up on this, or if it's just more of a statement to, state what everyone else is stating. Same here. I don't know. No geopolitics expert, so you've come to the wrong podcast.
So, yeah, I guess when it happens, it happens. and that's when we'll know what happens, because I don't know, Apple should have gone ahead of this. We've said this before.
Yeah.
There were so many ways that they could. Maybe they still will. And it's just not gonna be a thing after this year's WWDC. But I don't think they realize the kind of self-harm they've done via this. But yeah, it is what it is.
It is. I'm interested to see the benefits, quote unquote, of having a non-WebKit browser. Like, I think the biggest thing here is like, even Chrome and Brave and everything use WebKit on iOS and everything, which I get. So it talks about Google and Firefox having already sort of made the first steps to have their own, I forget what it's called, like renderers, work with iOS and stuff. So I don't really know. I don't know. For me, like, Safari has been great for everything I use, and I'm not. I guess I don't know the reason you would want to have something other than that. Other than I get that it's like another option, but
I think for the most part, what people actually care about when they use like Firefox or Chrome on their iPhone is that it syncs their bookmarks and their passwords and stuff like that, because they are not in the Apple ecosystem. They're in some other ecosystem. So that's what people mostly care about. I don't think anyone cares that like you're not able to do this, that, or other things via those browsers, because those browsers have exposed like new JavaScript APIs that like they wanted to expose, right? They just have to implement it via the bridging headers and via Objective-C, and they can expose whatever they want in terms of JavaScript APIs. So that is not the limitation. What's going to be really funny is that these browsers are going to come out with their own rendering engines, and then scrolling is going to suck for a few months because they didn't get the mechanics just right. And there's going to be like very subtle things like, hey, I can't select text correctly in Chrome anymore. Right. What's up with that? Or I can't do this in Firefox. Like when I do this thing in Firefox or tap and hold on a link, the wrong thing happens. So there's going to be a lot of that for a few months. And there's going to be some user interaction catching up from their point of view. That said, that's going to be followed up with, hey, look at all these new browser APIs that weren't available before, that everyone's going to start playing that game. And then, you can't view this on Safari. You need to use Chrome for this website.
That's going to suck,
that,
dude.
and other things. So that's the way it ends up going.
I know.
It's good to see Apple like putting the effort back into improving Safari and being like more competitive in this area, because that's where they needed to be competitive, is on the mobile side, and they weren't, because they didn't have to be. But then being competitive there means that desktop Safari will improve by leaps and bounds as well. So I think this is overall good for all intents and purposes.
Probably.
Because one, the third-party browsers will suck for a bit, which is always fun to tell people, like, why are you using that instead? Just use Safari. And then two, Apple will start taking it seriously. So that's what we wanted from them from the beginning, that they couldn't do before because they're too far up their own figurative holes to realize where they were.
Yeah, I agree. I wasn't saying that like this is a bad thing or anything. It does say that it appears that Apple's added more staff to the WebKit team, or perhaps will. So seems like maybe this will drive more feature parity, quote unquote, with the other browsers, sort of. Not backends, but maybe renderers. I don't know. Yeah.
And it seems to be like Apple's probably the one company out there that is not laying off tons and tons of people. So if they are growing that team, then I'd say that means that they are relatively serious about it, right? Because at the end of the day, the whole rest of the industry is laying people off left and right. And yeah, if they're going to catch up, now's the time, I would say. This week's episode of Code Completion is once again brought to you by Super Easy Timer. Super Easy Timer is a quick and easy way to use a timer app for your Mac. It's completely text-based, so you can type in English what you want. 20 minutes or 5 p.m., hit enter, and instantly start a timer. The timer understands English text to create, update, and start a new timer. You can quickly change an active countdown even while it's still counting down. There's simple keyboard shortcuts to reset or pause, no menus, no sliders, just use English to control your timer. We want to thank Super Easy Timer for sponsoring our show. Search for Super Easy Timer on the Mac App Store today to give it a try. So, Spencer, I've got a code completion tip for you. Right. And it has to do with optionals again. Have you ever run into the situation where you have an optional type and you wanted a different optional type? So previously you'd have to declare your second type, and then you have to do an if let your first one, and then like transform it and like put it in that variable. And that was never a nice thing. It's not like a nice one-liner. Though now you can do the new if statement, so you can just say like let my type equal if let something else. So that's really cool. But there's actually something you could have done all along, and that is to use map on optionals, because optionals they just have a map method, and that allows you to, just like with promises and futures and event loop futures, you can go ahead and map a different result onto your optional. So you can say my optional dot map open curly brace, and then $0 in that situation is going to be the unwrapped optional, and you're only handling the non-optional case. So then you can go ahead and transform it to whatever you want, different type, same type, different value, what have you. And then once you close the map, you return a brand new optional that is of a different type. So that's like a really great way of transforming like a string if you needed to wrap it in a few characters, especially when like dealing with an optional string is kind of a half headache. You can just go ahead and do that. Or if you had an optional number and you needed to do like arithmetic on it, you need to like multiply it by 5. You can't just multiply an optional by 5, but you can take your optional number and say dot map $0 times 5, and then you have an optional number multiplied by 5. So that's a really useful thing to do on optionals.
Okay. That's cool. So in that closure, it's not optional. It's sort of like it's unwrapped. The theoretical state that it does exist. That's cool. I didn't realize that you could perform map on like a single object, like instead of like mapping through an array of optionals and changing them that way. So that's cool. That's I definitely didn't know that one.
Yeah, and I think there is a way of like mapping the nil state as well. I don't remember though. I think flat map also works.
Like if it is nil, then change it to something else.
Yeah, and you can change it to something else that is also an optional, and it'll just kind of rewrap it, so you don't get a doubly wrapped optional.
Right.
I don't know. Have you ever worked with GraphQL and Swift?
No.
Okay. Let me bring onto you the fresh hell that is doubly wrapped optionals. those are not fun to deal with. But yeah, it just sprinkles them in everywhere, and that's fun. Because GraphQL on the TypeScript side can be either the type like a string, or undefined or null. So you get this trifecta of fun values to deal with, and that gets translated into Swift as a string ? Which is absolutely bananas, but that is what it is. It's the worst to deal with. But when you don't need to deal with that, maps on optionals are an excellent kind of thing to play around with. So I found a quick example on Hacking with Swift, because Hacking with Swift has an example for absolutely anything you can think of. I just literally Googled, and that was the first thing that came up for a link for the show notes. So put that there. So definitely do check that out. It's a great tip. I use them everywhere in my code bases. So makes for easy one-liners when you're dealing with simple optionals and you don't want to distract too much with a bunch of iflets and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool. That makes sense.
As always, I want to personally thank everyone for listening in this week. Please be sure to follow us on mastodon.social at Code Completion to know when new episodes go live, and feel free to tweet at us if there's ever a topic you'd like for us to dig into. Most importantly, as a small podcast, please be sure to share this with your friends and family who are also interested in any part of the process of app development. It's your support that enables us to continue doing this, and we hope to grow a healthy community around everything we discuss. Once again, I want to give my thanks to Spencer, who is at Spencer C. Curtis. That's SpencerCurtis for joining me this week. My name once again is Dimitri. You can find me at Dimitri Buñol. That's DimitriBouniol. And we'll see you all next week.
Bye.
Yeah. I want to talk about something else, though. And that is Zelda. Because we got Zelda stuff that came out. And it's giddy. Exciting. It is very exciting.
It's crazy to think, though, that we have like 3 months until it comes out, which is like nuts because it's been 5 years or something since Breath of the Wild came out. So
I think this game has had more development time than any prior Zelda, and it's a sequel building off Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
It is insane. It looks really cool. The trailer that they put in the direct is juicy, both from like a game mechanics standpoint and like a story standpoint. Dimitri found a really good video that was, it's a speculation into how this fits in the timeline and what does all of this stuff mean. I think we talked about in a previous episode, like some cryptographers going through and trying to translate the text and everything, so it's kind of more of the same thing, more of the same style, not the same thing. So yeah, could be really interesting, and an interesting way of like linking it to the timeline that is perhaps not. We'll link the video, I'm sure.
Yeah,
it was really cool.
I'll definitely be sure to link. It's mostly a bunch of videos by a YouTuber named Zeltic. And they do an excellent job at, one, making these videos, but two, like narrating them in a spectacular way. Mm-hmm. But three, like making some darn good points. So for instance, and I'm just like stealing what he says, so go watch the videos because he will do a way better job than I can, and a very classy accent, mind you.
Yes.
But basically he posits that Breath of the Wild kind of happens at the end of all the Zelda timelines, because Zelda timelines, that's a thing. If you're into Zelda, you are aware of the timelines.
Right now.
Yes. And it's just at the end of the 3 timelines. And if you're confused by the fact that there are 3 timelines, don't worry. It doesn't need to matter anymore because it happens at the end. And along with the little tidbit that Nintendo shared of they didn't want to reveal the title because it would be a spoiler, and then you look at the title and it's like, what on earth is this spoiling? And then you realize that it's not so much the title but the graphics for the title that are spoiling the fact that it's an Ouroboros, and the significance of like the rebirth and continuous cycles that never end, and the fact that maybe Breath of the Wild is a prequel to Skyward Sword. And you might be wondering, like, well, where'd that come from? Well, Skyward Sword happened after the world was like sent to the skies because of great calamity. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
So yeah, I am 100% down with that theory. That theory sounds cool. I don't care if it doesn't end up being the case. It just sounds cool at this point.
One thing that was like, okay, was the I don't know if it's like the producer or the director of Breath of the Wild and also Tears of the Kingdom was the person what had the same title for Skyward Sword, which is like the 2 bookends of this timeline, and so it kind of like he's got this whole backstory potentially a good way to link it, I suppose. No pun intended.
Yeah, so it's 10,000 years after everything other Zeldas, and then it's 10,000 years prior to the next one. It doesn't mean there can't be more Zeldas. There's plenty of time in between for more Zeldas to happen. But it does explain the fact that Nintendo is like, we have this timeline and we don't really care about it. Here's a nice way of writing that in.
Yeah. I was surprised when Skyward Sword came out that they like had, I don't know, the timeline like it seems to have made everything difficult for them, and I'm sure they just want to kind of like retcon it somehow. So yeah, it's exciting though. I'm super stoked.
They could always pull like, oh, this is an alternate dimension of Zelda. They already did that. There's 3 timelines. They already went down that rabbit hole. But yeah.
So one thing I want to say though, which has become abundantly clear in the last couple weeks, is the Switch is anemic as far as hardware goes, and I'm scared for the performance of this new game because I have been playing the new Fire Emblem game, and it's mostly a 3D board game. That's pretty much it. I have videos, and I'm sure you could look it up on YouTube or something, but like just scrolling across the map leads to like less than double-digit frame per second at times. And I'm like, this is not a hard game to run, I'm sure. And it's just the Switch is so underpowered that like it's amazing to me that as like the first game, Breath of the Wild ran at all.
I don't know if it's unfair expectations. Honestly, it set very unfair expectations because nothing has really ran as well as that since, and it wasn't even optimized for the Switch, which is the scariest part.
I know, dude, and that's like the only other game that I can think of that runs well is like Smash, because like it kind of has to. But like that's it, dude. The game I'm playing, it's so not like graphically. It has parts where it looks like a normal like Zelda type game. It doesn't look as good as I don't know. Breath of the Wild is like cel shaded and stuff, but my point is the game is like 5 or 6 years newer than Breath of the Wild, and the performance is terrible. So it's a fun game and I like it, but like there are points when I'm just scrolling through the map and I'm like, this is awful, dude. This is like unplayable, and it makes me want to like grab an emulator and play it on my PC because it's so bad. So I'm sure they hopefully they've optimized Tears of the Kingdom to be even better than Breath of the Wild, because it did stutter at times and stuff. But I wish we had a more powerful console that even if it kept it at 1080p, that's fine. But if it had it at a locked 60, would be so nice.
Mm-hmm. I honestly think that Tears of the Kingdom has a better chance than Breath of the Wild, mostly because it was kind of optimized for the Wii U, which was even worse hardware. And now we had 5 years for at least some engineer to really like hack at it and really improve the performance for individual pieces and key functionalities. So I'm pretty optimistic there, especially when you consider like the difference. Like take the N64 for instance, that was like very underpowered hardware. And the difference between like Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time, which came several years later, was night and day. Like
that's fair, yeah.
There's a lot of improvements that you can get with something that came out at the very beginning of a generation's like timeline versus at the very end. And it's a big shame that like Fire Emblem and Pokemon are
with the Pokemon,
like not great. But I heard like Xenoblade Chronicles looks amazing by comparison, and they really like optimize the hell out of it. And that's a team that was working with like Nintendo on Breath of the Wild, so I'm pretty optimistic.
Good. That's
it'll
nice.
still be 960p, but I'm optimistic that it'll at least meet up with the expectations of Breath of the Wild. Like it won't be worse than that. It'll be better.
Yeah, I agree that it's Breath of the Wild sort of set an unfair precedent for every game to come, because it's like Dude, how could you mess this up, man? I don't know.
We only
Time, I
had
guess.
200 people working on this for 5 years. How could you do such a poor job?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
But
yeah, May, dude. It's coming. I'm excited.
Soon. So soon.
I need to... I was just going to say, I need to probably put in my week of time off right now.
Take Take 2 weeks.
Dude, that's so much time, dude. I'll take at least a week, but I'm sure that at this point, especially with this latest trailer, they're probably not going to change the date. So I feel comfortable in now asking for time off, and
yeah.
So,
what do you think
exciting.
about the redeads? Pinch your mouth redeads.
I don't know if I remember them, honestly. I've only watched the trailer one time.
You didn't see the pinch your mouth redeads?
I don't think I remember them, no.
They look gnarly.
Do they?
Yeah.
Cool. There's some like cool enemies, like big golem type things and stuff. It's like, it looks cool.
Yeah, they showed up a lot of bosses, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I was not expecting it, whether it's the like the block Minecraft golem thing that you're gonna need to fight, or the 3-headed dragon that's just on the bridge of Lake Hylia.
That's exciting.
That seems fun. It seems like they showed off like more in the distance. Like there was a whole bunch of Moldugas or whatever, those like sand creatures that I honestly avoided. I was afraid of that. I didn't want to mess with that. They forced me to fight that thing once, and I was like, "There's a king one? No thanks."
That's awesome.
I'm sticking with the weak one.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna be quite the game, I think. And I think crafting is gonna be a big thing this time around.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when people complain, it's like, "Oh, you collect all these things and you can't craft anything with them other than food." And honestly, did you ever make food? I just stocked up on apples. I raided the little forest of apples that was on like Satori Mountain or whatever. And then like any danger, I paused and ate my apples to go back to full 20 hearts or whatever.
No, I would just get like the durians or the
the hardy durians.
Yeah.
And just put like 4 of them in the thing and you get like infinite yellow hearts.
Exactly, yeah. Be like, okay, I'm good. Dude, playing on master mode was fun, but it's like yellow bokoblins just like drain 20 hearts at once and you're like, holy crap, okay. It's, it would be cool to, I don't know what else you would craft, but it would be cool to kind of integrate that more. And
well, it seems like
I'm excited to see
craft shields and swords.
Yeah, and that's cool.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, be interesting. I mean, they have 5 years, right, to like, I guess, perfect what Breath of the Wild is, and it's almost like a 2.0, like big version difference, and like how can they take what's good about Breath of the Wild and fix everything that's not. So I'm sure they've had extensive testing to, like A/B style testing or whatever to see like what is good, what is not. I'm sure they experimented a lot, I guess is what I'm getting at.
I think as long as they bring back like 7 to 10 dungeons, I think I would be like more than happy. That's the biggest thing I missed, is having like a big, like unique dungeon that's different than every other dungeon that's there. Because that's what, like, yes, Zelda games are linear, but then once you go in the dungeons, then it doesn't feel linear. It feels like you're solving a little puzzle box. And that was the fun part. So I really hope that we get a whole bunch of those, rather than like the Divine Beast or the Shrines. Like, yeah, they were fun, but it didn't really meet up that expectation that dungeons traditionally did, right?
Yeah, I'm sure that just by like the open world nature of it, and there having to be some way to fill it, I'm sure they'll do some sort of shrine style thing. But yeah, like a big sort of legacy dungeon would be, like, a lot of them would be really cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems like the spiral like energy thingies are becoming the new shrines, or at least fast transport. Like they are absolutely everywhere in the new trailer.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see what is involved with activating them. Is it like a full shrine, or is it just like an activating and you have this like waypoint that you can kind of use? And then it seems like the towers are back, this time with spotlights. And I was kind of like wondering, are these towers also entrances to the underground, which they showed off?
Yeah, that'd be
of.
cool.
Like that becomes the entrance to the cave systems that you can then go ahead and explore. And that'd be really neat, along with the islands.
Yeah. I think the best part is like there's not much time. There isn't much of a wait anymore. So like I've largely ignored. I mean, when was the first like teaser? It was like 2019 or something. Like it was
3 years ago. 4 years.
Yeah,
ago.
dude.
It's like ridiculous.
And I'm like, this isn't coming out anytime soon. But like now I'm like getting pretty hyped up because I know like we're finally actually there for real this time. So that's always just like
we have a Ganondorf voice actor. That's all that matters, right?
Yeah, except he's like American and he sounds not awesome. I don't know.
He needs an accent.
I don't know. I'm like so used to like the Ocarina of Time Ganondorf like only laugh and grunt that it's weird that like he has an accent or like he has a voice at all. Just like Link, you know what I mean? It'd be weird if Link had a voice, no matter what it was.
I think the funniest thing was in Triforce Percent when he suddenly starts speaking Japanese. That was the funniest thing. You have like the British Zelda and then arigatou gozaimasu. That was just the cherry on the top of wackadoodle ideas that have come to the Zelda community recently.
It's so good. That Zelda or Triforce Percent is so cool, dude.
Very impressive. Very, very impressive.
Insanely.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to the crazy wackadoodle like contraptions that you'll be able to make. Like they have a whole full physics. You bet.
Yeah.
Like I bet you that they came up with the idea of like, let's let people make a car. As soon as they saw the videos of people like stacking the minecarts on each other and just like turning it into a little like hovercraft that they could just take with them. As soon as the developers saw that video on the internet, I bet you they're like, okay, we see you. We're giving you the tools to just make whatever you want. Here's some green goop. You take green goop and glue wheels and headlights and this control
That's so cool
rod, and you can just make your quadrocopter if you want, or your car. Why you would do this? I guess we'll have to come up with a reason why you should be motivated to do it, right?
Go from island to island or something. I don't know.
Well, like, why would you need a car? Most of Breath of the Wild is like not flat. So some people are like suggesting, well, maybe you need to transport something that you can't just hold on to. And that makes sense. Like, yeah, definitely.
That'd be cool.
That's a valid use case. Probably would take more time to assemble your car, but why not?
Yeah.
You got headlights. Maybe
that's
horn.
the thing. Like,
honk honk.
that's the thing with Breath of the Wild was like there were so many ways that you could solve whatever puzzle or shrine or anything. That like that's kind of what made it fun was like how is your ingenuity going to solve this problem, and there's not like one way to do it. So that's I think what made Breath of the Wild such a good game is like you could approach it from so many different ways, and fun to see what speedrunners come up with flying with trees and stuff before they get into like the hardcore glitchy stuff. But like that's like probably semi.
It's all in the BLSSs now.
Yeah, it's crazy what they do now. Just like wiggle back and forth. Yeah.
Why is Zelda flying?
Zelda.
So, yeah, it's gonna be really cool to see what comes up. My number one question is I have not seen bombs anywhere. I don't think they're back as runes. I think they might be back as items. We just didn't see them yet. Which means like no more wind bombs, that's for sure. And maybe there's just no bombs, which would be kind of like...
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they bring back any of the old runes or anything.
Well, they have like a pseudo-magnesis, right?
They
They have
the one
like...
that, like stops it.
Well, not the one that stops it.
Or-
Like picking up the wheel out of the bog. Like it doesn't work with metal things. It works with like Zonai things or whatever the new
gotcha.
tech is. They showed that. They showed like reversing time on the spike ball that was coming down. I think that was like the first gameplay trailer that they showed off. And then they showed off Link like turning into a
Going
droplet of
through-
water
Yeah.
and like phasing through the top of an island.
Right.
So they showed off some pieces. I don't think there's gonna be a camera.
There's
Amiibo,
gonna be a
why
camera.
not? I wish you can just do Amiibo without the choosing the rune. It's just like tap the thing. Unless it uses energy, I don't know. Just tap the thing. And then yeah, there's the bombs, which I guess I would be fine with returning as an item, right?
Yeah.
Like it was
It'd
nice
be
having
something you
infinite
could craft.
bombs, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't miss them. I'm kind of used to the fact that you just gotta hunt for bombs, cut down the grass until you find some bombs.
That's because that makes sense.
Yeah, it's where bombs are hiding. Obviously,
Of course.
it's one sad thing from Breath of the Wild is you can cut down all the grass you want. There's nothing to find other than like crickets.
Dragonflies, yeah.
Yeah.
It is a departure for Zelda. For
Yeah.
sure.
And maybe this one's the one where it like ropes it back in. And yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
It's like 12, 13 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Right around the corner.
Yeah, and we're both like hunting for the whatever collector's edition.
Okay, so
version.
apparently the collector's edition went up momentarily on Best Buy.
Oh, really?
Accidentally. Best Buy wasn't supposed to put it up. So then they took it down. Target put it also up, but they just like left it until it sold out, I guess.
Dang it, dude.
Yeah. It's heavily being scalped at the moment.
No doubt.
So that's that. I think Nintendo needs to take one out of Apple's book and just like sell things. And then if you sell out, just continue selling them. But just say
Like back
that.
order.
Yeah. Just say the date's a little later. I'd be fine with that. I think everyone would be
too.
fine with that. But it's way better than like scalping. Because at the end of the day, it's like you're a company for kids. Not like we're also there. But it's like don't do this for kids. That's like the worst thing. Because then kids blame their parents for not getting them the game or whatever. And like those poor parents. Not cool. Not cool, Nintendo. Also, not cool scalpers. You guys suck.
Yeah, it's like scalpers. I think like it sucks that people just are like, oh, this is a hot item. So I mean, it was like with the whole graphics card thing that lasted like 2.5 years, dude. With just people just being like, not they're like people that would sell and resell shoes were just like, oh, GPU's the hot item right now. I'm gonna do the same thing with GPUs, and it made like everyone suffer because they were just trying to make a buck. So it's a bummer that people do that.
Yeah.
So
anyways, I'm excited.
Yep.
Can't wait.
We need like
Literally.
we need like a side podcast called Game Completion or something. This is like
I've completed 0 games this past decade, but I'm here to talk about them. Actually, you could probably tell me all about all the cool games that you're playing, and then I would just live vicariously through you.
No. Well, you played Breath of the Wild. That was in the last 10 years.
It was in the second half of the 10 years.
Still part of 10 years, dude. But yes. Well, you're going to add Tears of the Kingdom. That'll be 2 for a lot out of 10 years.
I'll at least play Pikmin 4.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah,
I
that one's
probably will not.
That one's a definite play for me. Though, yeah, the last time I played a Pikmin game to completion was definitely... When did the Wii U come out?
2014, 2013?
Wow. Yeah, it's been a while. But yeah, I basically bought a Wii U to...
Oh, 2012. Holy crap.
2012. I think I bought a Wii U to play Pikmin. Which like you did well, Wii U, I guess. I thought it was a pretty cool console. It was before its time, or too late for its time. It was
it's like
mistimed.
Yes, it's like, and also like a precursor for the Switch. It just like wasn't quite there yet.
Mm-hmm. Like as a kid, I would have loved the idea of like, oh, my parents are kicking me off the TV. I'm just gonna take this little gizmo and just walk to the corner of the living room and continue playing while parents are watching their important stuff. Like totally fine with that.
The news.
That would have been amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Parents probably would not be happy with that, but for me, that would have been amazing. But I guess the Switch kind of one-ups that, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Very exciting, though.